clock now says noon, so we will go ahead and call this meeting to order. Mr. Coley, would you note that all the commissioners, except for Commissioner Small, are present?
Thank you.
And Commissioner Small is absent because he is being presented with an award at an MLK luncheon that's held today. So next time you see him, please congratulate him. Commissioners, as you recall, in past years we've had members of the Leadership Development Program in attendance to observe the board meeting process. Over the next few months, we'll have participants from this year's class in attendance. I'd like to welcome this month's participants that are with us. We're really happy to have you here. If you would please stand and introduce yourself. Tell us, in addition to your name, tell us how long you've been with KUB and what department you're from.
I'm Tanisha Hawley. I currently work in the Customer Experience Department as a service advisor, and I've been with KUB for 5 years, or it'll be 5 years in February.
I'm Daniel Kimball. I came to KUB straight out of college from UT 18 years ago. I'm in our economic department, and I lead a small little group and try to help us out.
KUB for about 16 years, and I've spent most of my time in software development.
And I'm Stephanie Midget. I've been with KUB almost 6 years, and I'm in our communications group and primarily handle media relations.
Hi, I'm Jose Pena, and I work for ISD. I've been with KUB about 6 years, and I currently lead the cybersecurity and compliance team.
I'm James Tennyson. I've been at KUB for 14 years, and I am the physical security team lead.
Dustin Trout. I've been in overhead construction for 20 years, and I'm currently a supervisor.
Well, welcome. Thanks for being here today. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
No, you got to the minutes.
I am getting ahead of myself.
Thank you, lady.
The next item on our agenda is the approval of minutes that were mailed out to you for the December the 19th meeting. I'll need a motion in a second or any changes that you would suggest need to be made.
Move to approve.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Now I'll turn it over to you, Gabe.
I'd like to recognize Bill Coley to administer the oath of officer to Kathy Hamilton.
Mr. Hampton, if you'll come around. If you will, raise your right hand and place your left hand on your Bible. Now, Commissioner Hamilton, repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I possess the qualifications required by law
that I possess the qualifications required by law
for the office of KUB Commissioner,
for the office of KUB Commissioner,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Tennessee,
the Constitution of the State of Tennessee,
the Charter of the City of Knoxville,
the Charter of the City of Knoxville,
and the bylaws of KUB,
and the bylaws of KUB,
that I do not have any contracts or business interests with KUB
that I do not have any contracts or business interests with KUB
that constitute conflict of interest,
that constitute a conflict of interest,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
and perform with fidelity
the
duties of Commissioner without fear or favor,
the duties of Commissioner without fear or favor,
to the extent of my skill and ability,
to the extent of my skill and ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations. Thank you. Commissioners, it's time for election of 2020 officers, and you'll recall that last month the nominating committee nominated a slate of officers for your consideration, and the nominations included Kathy Hamilton for chair, Adrienne Simpson Brown as vice chair, and Mark Walker as secretary. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, is there a motion and a second to elect the officers as nominated by the nominating committee?
So moved.
Second.
Are there, all those in favor of the motion to elect the officers presented by the nominating committee, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Congratulations. The motion carries.
All right, next on our agenda, we have the president's report. Dave?
Yes. Commissioners, I would like to introduce Liz Hanna, Manager of Executive Services Environmental Stewardship, to go over the annual disclosure requirements.
Thank you. Good afternoon. There we go. Commissioners, due to your past service on the KUB board, you're familiar with regulations that relate to conflict of interest in your position as a KUB commissioner. So we'll have a brief review of that today. Some of those regulations stem back to the city charter and the very first resolution adopted by the KUB board. Others relate to the conflict of interest policy that was incorporated in the KUB bylaws back in the year 2000. In 2005, KUB adopted a conflict of interest policy for all employees, and it requires an annual disclosure process. I'm pleased to share today that all of our employees have completed the process for the year recently. And in 2006, the state of Tennessee established an ethics commission. They passed legislation that prompted municipalities across the state to adopt ethics policies, as this board did in 2007. The bylaws section of the ethics section of the bylaws was updated in 2012. And in 2013, the board adopted a resolution that requires an annual disclosure process for our commissioners. The ethics policy is in alignment with governing regulations and guidelines, and it helps employees avoid perceived or real conflicts of interest. It defines ethical standards related to several areas that include political activity, outside employment, nepotism, use of KUB time and facilities, and use of the KUB position and authority. So today in your agenda packets, you have a blank annual disclosure form to complete by the end of January. There's a copy of the form that you completed last year, and there's also a copy of the policy that relates. Also, while I'm here today, I want to give you an update on the continuing education requirements that apply to KUB commissioners, and let you know that all of our commissioners completed the requirements for the past year. Chair Hamilton recently signed the certification for those records. And if I can answer any questions for you, I'm happy to do so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, KUB's proposed rate changes for this coming spring are going to be discussed today. Even though there will be no action until later this spring, we want to introduce the pilot time of use rates. And I've asked Sherry Auditor, Manager of Rates and Analytical Services, to give you a presentation and answer your questions about those rates.
Good afternoon. Well, I'm very glad to be here with you today talking about electric structure changes. As I know you are aware, KUB's grid modernization project is nearing to a close, and one of the many benefits of that investment is that we will have better data for us to be able to assess how different classes of customers utilize energy and how their use impacts our purchase power cost. So that is the main topic for today. Also, last fall, you heard some very good news concerning our overall 3-year rate forecast. So I do want to revisit that briefly and just recap where we are on all of our rate increases for the divisions, and then I'll move into the electric rate structure discussion specifically. So as you are aware, KUB has been recommending rate increases on a 3-year cycle almost since the inception of the Century 2 program. And in doing so, what we're doing there is we're balancing your governance with our customers' experience. Doing it on a 3-year cycle as opposed to doing them 1 year at a time provides customers with more advance notice and gives them a better opportunity to plan for and to budget for those increases. So as you heard last fall, for the electric rate increases, we had planned to have an increase every year. We have been able to push back 2 of those rate increases. we will still need an increase in the third year. For the gas division, we were able to remove all 3 rate increases for the upcoming forecast. And then for wastewater, while we weren't able to remove them, we were able to reduce the rate increases that we had planned for that division. Also, as we were beginning to think about how we might implement any rate increases, one recommendation that we determined we could make was to have no increase in the residential customer charge. And then again, we have some electric rate structure changes for next fall also. So again, this is just a recap of those prior forecasts for the rates. This chart also shows what the typical residential customer saves from the elimination or the deferral or the reduction of those rate increases. So again, for the electric division, removing the 2 1% in year 1 and year 2 provides $78 to the typical residential customer across that 3-year period. For natural gas, the savings is $36, and then for the wastewater customers, $36 also. So a customer who has all 4 services would have a savings compared to the prior forecast of $150. Now, of course, we know all of our customers do not have all 4 services. So as we look at the pie chart on the left there, the red slice indicates electric-only customers, and then that's followed by 14% for gas-only, and then 14% of our customers have electric and gas. That's a total of 65% of our customers in those 3 slices. What's important about that is because we are not having any increases in electric for FY21 and FY22, and then for gas, that means 65% of our customers will have no rate increase for the next 2 years. So again, that was very good news that I know Mr. Walker was glad to share with you last fall, and we just wanted to recap that. And for the rest of this presentation, I won't be talking about water or wastewater, and I won't be talking about the electric FY23 rate increase, but we will be talking about rate structure changes. So we have 2 recommendations to make to you today. The first one concerns our existing rates for the small and mid-sized business customers. And what we're proposing there is to institute a demand charge on the first 50 kW of demand. So this population, if we think about it, it's very, very broad. It includes about 23,000 customers. And these are customers, their demand is less than 1,000 kilowatts. This would be the very smallest business you could think of. Some of these businesses might actually consume less energy than even a residential household. And then others in this category would include restaurants, hotels, office buildings, churches, schools. It's a very broad category of consumption going all the way up to that 1,000 kilowatt limit. And then the second topic that we have also involves that same population of small to mid-sized business customers. We want to offer time of use rates to that segment, and we also want to offer time of use rates to residential customers. So I'll get into the details a little bit more of each of these. So when we look at demand charges, the small business customers currently do not have a demand charge at all. So this is going to be a new concept for them. And the mid-sized customers, if their demand is above 50 kW, they do currently have a demand charge now. So again, that's about 3,000 customers that are mid-sized and about 20,000 that we would say are small customers or GSA 1. And as we move forward with this, why do we want to charge for demand? Well, one very important reason is to align cost. When you think about how we pay TVA for purchase power, we pay an energy charge and we also pay a demand charge. So it just makes sense. Yes?
Can you define demand charge?
Demand charge is based on kilowatts, which is the peak that you take at any given point in time. And then energy is based on kilowatt hours, which is how much energy that you consume. So a lot of times we will express it in terms of you're driving a car. Your speed is your demand, but your odometer, how far you go, is your energy. So it's two different measures. One is a point in time, and then one is across a period of time. So does that answer?
And is the point to encourage people to spread their demand so that we don't experience peaks?
Yeah, well, the first point probably is really, it is to align those costs, but you do want to reduce your peak. So it's always good to conserve energy and use less energy, but there's also a factor in there of reducing that peak. So if you think of maybe an industrial customer and they have lots of equipment, we would like for them to bring their equipment on one at a time. If certain things don't have to run at the same time, that reduces peak. So they may still run all the pieces of equipment, but they don't run all of them at the same time. And that helps reduce TDA's cost for meeting that peak. It reduces KUB's cost because we have to size our infrastructure to meet that peak demand.
And what TVA charges us on peak is dependent on what our peaks are.
Correct.
So
Yes.
well, we hold down the charges for our customers if we reduce our peak.
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yep. So that cost alignment is very important. A second thing that is very important is, and I think Commissioner Askew kind of brought us right into this, which is to give customers control. Because to the extent that customers do make choices like not running all of their equipment at the same time or the time of day, as we'll get into at the time of use rates, you can reduce those bill impacts, and that gives the customer greater control. So anytime that we introduce or think about a structure change, one of the things we want to do is we want it to be revenue neutral to KUB. So that's why I'm differentiating between the rate increases that we have planned and this rate structure change, because it is not a rate increase to KUB, it's just a matter of collecting and recovering the cost differently. And then we also want to minimize bill impacts. One thing that we have heard from other utilities as we attended conferences, sometimes they will put parameters in place, and it typically sounds something like we want 80% of our customers to have an impact from this change of 5% or less per year, 8% or less. We did not put any hard and fast rules as we first set out on looking at this data. But had we put in a rule like that, like 80% and 5%, we would definitely be meeting that and achieving that. So again,
Sherry?
Yes.
I have a question. Sorry if I missed it, if you mentioned it. TVA determines our peak charge. How often? Is it a monthly basis? Is it daily? And so if this is implemented and we were able to lower the peak, how long would it take for them to realize it and have a cost impact to us?
Yes, TVA, the peak, it's monthly on our bill. And as far as how long it would take us to realize it, I mean, it's really within that month, whatever any customer can do to reduce. And when we talk about bill impacts, again, the biggest benefit when we implement a demand charge to a customer, that customer is going to see that impact on their bill immediately. So those decisions go straight to them. There may be a little bit of residual impact depending on the timing of when their peak is and when TVA is that would benefit all customers, but the majority of the benefit for that customer's decision, they get all of the benefit of that. So again, if we put demand charge in for the first 50 kilowatts, then at that point, all business customers would have some type of demand charge. So I'm going to apologize for the amount of numbers on this chart. I know everyone is not a numbers person, but there really is just two key takeaways from this. One is that the demand rate that we are proposing, we're proposing to put in very gradually and incrementally. And so you can see under the GSA 1 and also the GSA 2, currently that first 50 kilowatts, zero charge. And we are recommending that in year 1, we make that 50 cents, in year 2, $1, and then in year 3, $2. And the second key takeaway is that, of course, as I mentioned, it's revenue neutral, and that's why we have the arrows there. You can see that the energy rates are going down as the demand rate increases. I'll also point out, again, we're seeing 50 cents, $1, and $2. When you look at GSA 2, The second block of demand is at $15. So that's why we're saying this is a small change, and we're being very intentional about being gradual.
It's 50 cents per 50 kilowatts, or it's 50 cents per kilowatt past 50, or what?
It's 50 cents per kilowatt of that customer. So a customer could have 1 kilowatt, another customer could have 20, so it would be, 1 times 50 cents or 20 times 50 cents, whatever their amount is for that month.
And we're saying that we are aligning this with what TVA charges us. I get that. Were we not charging, was TVA charging us for something that we weren't recovering from our customers before?
No. This is about alignment of the recovery. We are recovering every dollar, and we have that purchase power adjustment, and we have deferred accounts. But what is happening here, for example, if you look at GSA 2 and you see that second energy block, we didn't take anything away from it. The reason we didn't take anything away there is because the purchase power demand cost, we're not recovering any of it in that block. So with all of the TVA costs, we have to assign where they go. Residential customers do not pay demand. They do create a purchase power demand cost for us. We recover that through their energy rate. So it's all about how you recover it. So very, very good questions.
But, and we've been putting advanced meters on residential homes. Do we have advanced meters on these businesses too? Is that how we're able to give them the capability, the capacity to manage this? They couldn't have done it without the advanced meters.
Absolutely. And that is very much why we're coming to you now at this time as the grid modernization is finishing up. The rollout of all the meters is set for June of this year. And so until all the business customers had these meters, we could not charge them without being able to measure it and record it.
How are we educating them about the fact that this advanced meter data is available? As several people know, I love to look at it. But, someone called me last week to say, oh, my electric bill was out of sight. And we've been out of town, and I said, well, have you looked at your advanced meter data? And they're like, well, we don't even know what that is. And I said, well, you get online, you can pull up your advanced meter data. But I'm not sure a lot of people even know how to do that.
Yeah. I suspect that a lot of people don't know how. And even as with the time of use rates we're going to discuss, we anticipate there will be varying levels of interest from the customer. Some, like you, will be very interested in learning about it, and some really won't have that much interest.
Okay.
And so I think we're going to be responsive to the customers. We're going to put the information out there for those who want it, and stand ready to answer questions and provide tools for those who are very interested and who do want to know more about how to manage costs.
But we will be communicating obviously in advance too. Even though it's a large number of customers, we will still be communicating with them to let them know that this is coming. And I think actually even on the new bills, for those that haven't seen demand before, they will now see a graph that has demand on there, so they can get used to that. But there'll be a lot of communication and education that goes with this, and I assume we'll get a lot of questions on that.
Well, if we were already recovering the costs, we were just doing it in different categories, it really should be minimal impact on the bottom line.
Yeah, and on the bottom line, it's zero for us. On their bottom line, Sherry will show you here in just a moment, it's minimal.
Yeah.
Anytime you have a structural change, you'll have some that go down and some that go up a little bit, but it's been done in a way where it's rather minimal.
Okay.
Do we have the communication campaign already are you already working on it? And I guess the reason what I'm trying to ask, is it going to be something besides just communicating through the bill? Because I think a lot of times in a business, that bill goes to somebody in the accounts payable department and they don't look past what is owed, and then any information contained in there doesn't really get transmitted to the appropriate person within the business. So that would be my concern.
Right. Well, I know that letters will be sent to all the customers to alert them of the change, and if they have any questions. that will certainly entertain them. Given that there's 20,000 of them, it would be hard to reach out directly to each and every one of them, with a personal call, but we will be,
Yeah,
we have
as long as it's outside the bill itself,
it
I
is, it is.
think
It is.
that's what I wanted to make sure. Okay, thank you.
Appreciate that.
And actually, the next point that I was going to make was to lead into bill impacts, because customers in this, in the GSA 1 class or in the GSA 2 class, if they were perfectly average, what would happen on their bill is that if this new demand charge comes into play year 1, if they get a $6 demand charge, their energy charge will go down by 6. Now, obviously, we know everybody's not perfectly average. It's not going to line up, and as Mr. Walker said, some will have increases and some will have decreases. And so minimizing those bill impacts was one of our goals. So as we look at these two classes, about half of the customers will have a bill decrease. So that's a very easy message. For those that have increases, most of those increases are going to be very small. And so the bullet there on both classes says less than 1%. That does not mean that everybody in there is getting 0.99. Some of them are getting 0.1%, 0.2. It's across that full spectrum, so these are very small. But then, of course, for any structural change that you make, and you can find that guideline that hits for most of the customers, but there are always going to be some exceptions and some outliers. So for the customers that are receiving more than 1% as far as an annualized increase, the max for the small class is 2.9%. And then for the larger GSA 2 class, the maximum is 2.3. So again, not everybody, even of the outliers, is getting 2.3, but it's from 1 to 2.3, from 1 to 2.9. So just to give a sense of what that population is, the impacts do vary from year to year. If I just look at year 1, and I say how many of the GSA 1 customers are going to experience more than a 1% increase, it's 13%. So that means 87% are getting a 1% increase or less. And then for the GSA 2 class, it's 3% that we would indicate that those are what we would consider to be outliers based on a 1% parameter. 97% will have a small increase or a decrease.
What would compose an outlier?
Well, again, it's all in how you define it. We're defining it as above 1%. And as I mentioned, we've seen other utilities, when they're talking about outliers, they may say, if we want 80% of our customers to have a 5% increase or less, then it's whatever's above 5. For us, we've defined it as 1%, which is a very tight bandwidth.
I was just clarifying secretly, I guess, because I didn't want to be asked a stupid question. That the bill impact could be 0 for somebody because they have more control.
Absolutely.
This is just if nothing was, they just kind of, not unlike Celeste, they didn't open the app and look and try to control things. But the purpose is that this, they could, is 0 or negative.
Yeah, and for some of these customers, I mean, this is not even taking action. This is just how their load profile is.
Gotcha.
So again, when you change the structure, you're always going to have some that are going to benefit and some that are going to pay a little bit more, even if they make no change in their behavior. So if there's no further questions, I will move on to the time of use pilots. So again, what we want to do is we want to introduce time of use rates to the segments of our customer base that currently do not have that option. Our very largest customers were given an option of time of use rates over a decade ago. Those customers that are 5 megawatts and greater, currently they are all on time of use rates. The next level down, which we would call large customers, from 1 to 5 megawatts, those customers have a choice. They can do the traditional rates, or they can choose time of use. And so there's about 55 of those. 15 of those have chosen time of use. The other 40 have remained on the traditional rate. So what we're trying to do now, our proposal is to bring this option of time of use rates down to all of the business customers and then also to the residential. But that is a key point, that this, what we're recommending is optional. And again, our main goal here is just to provide that option to offer time of use to all of these customers. Also, again, power cost recovery is very important. We want to align how we pay TVA, the costs that are incurred. We want to align cost recovery with that. So we're doing that with these rates. And also, we want to maintain KUB margin. We want to design the rate. We don't want, if all of the customers move to these rates, that KUB's bottom line would get some benefit or it would be to its detriment. We want to be neutral in regards to the customer's choice. And
what if you elected time of use and you decided you didn't want to do it? Do you have to elect it for a set period of time?
No.
So you could change your mind month to month?
Absolutely. And we expect some customers probably will change their mind. And that's one of the things that we'll learn during the pilot. To this point, the rates team has learned a lot about time of use rates. Now the rest of our organization is learning more, and we expect during the pilot that we're going to learn a lot about our customers, about the best ways to communicate these concepts to them. And for that reason, well, I'll go ahead and talk about the rates first. So here is the residential time of use rates that we are proposing. We are proposing that the customer charge, the basic service charge, be the same as it is on the traditional rate, and also that there be no demand charge, which again is the same as the traditional rate. As I mentioned before, there are demand costs, but we recover those in the energy charge. And then the energy charge that you see here would be approximately 20 cents for on-peak and 7 cents for off-peak. On-peak is going to be Monday through Friday, and it's going to be 6 hours each day, Monday through Friday. Weekends are always off-peak, and there's 18 hours Monday through Friday that are off-peak. So I tend to talk in terms of weekdays and weekend. Holidays are also off-peak, so we'll just consider that a bonus. But within those hours, what we have heard in the industry is that in order for that differential between on-peak and off-peak to be meaningful and to change, encourage customer behavior to change, it needs to be at least 2.5 to 3 times greater for the on-peak. So with this particular rate, that differential is 3.0. So we're achieving that.
And do we know when the hours are?
Yeah.
Yes. So right now, we are in the winter period. Winter is 5 months, November through March. And if you think about when the most energy might be used, it's during the cold hours. So it's going to be from 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. Then when we get to the summer months, when you start thinking about heat load in August and how hot it is in the afternoons, that's why it switches for the summer period. So summer, it's going to be 2 p.m. to 8 p.m., Monday through Friday. And the way that we determine those hours is that's how we pay TVA. So again, we're just aligning that. The holidays that we will recognize as off-peak are the holidays that are recognized as off-peak in our wholesale contract with TVA. So we're just keeping all of that aligned. So when customers are on this rate, probably the comparison that they're going to be making is, hey, anything that I can shift from an on-peak time to an off-peak time, I can save 13 cents. But initially, the customers that are looking and trying to make a decision if they want to take the time of use rate, they're probably going to compare to the rate they're on right now. And so, of course, they pay generally somewhere between 9 and 10 cents per kilowatt hour. And of course, as you would expect, the on-peak rates are going to be higher than that in order for the off-peak rates to be lower. So again, there's, this is a different way of recovering costs, but there's still a bucket of costs to be recovered there. So that is something, part of our communication effort is, when customers call in, we want to be able to walk them through this and explain it and make sure that they understand what they're signing up for. And again, to the extent that they don't, or they change their mind, then we will have an opt-out provision. But each customer is really going to have to consider their usage history, when they use energy, what days, what hours, and their ability to potentially shift load. And that will be true for the business customers as well as for the residential. So for the small GSA 1 business customers, again, that's less than 50 kilowatts. The rate that we are proposing for them, again, the basic service charge would stay the same as the traditional rate. They would have a demand charge of $2 per kilowatt, and then the differential between their on-peak and off-peak energy, I believe, is 2.8. For the GSA 2 customers, and again, that is a very broad category. We're thinking 50 kilowatts to 1,000 kilowatts. And because of that differentiation in size, now we are recommending for this class that we break it into 2 subclasses, with the breakpoint being at 100 kilowatts. And what that does, the smaller grouping would be about 2/3 of this population, and the larger would be about 1/3. And again, the rates for these customers, you can see that the smaller customers would have a customer charge of $95, which is consistent with what they have today. They would also have demand of $4.45, and then the differential between their on and off peak is 2.5. And then for the large customers, they would have a little bit larger customer charge. They would have a larger demand charge, but they would have lower energy rates. And I believe the differential between those two is maybe about 3.1. But again, all of these are getting within that range of being above 2.5 that we want. So how do customers save by choosing time of use? For some customers, they are already using more energy off-peak than their peers. So for those customers, they could sign up for a time of use rate, make no changes, and save money. If they wanted to make changes and there was additional load that they could shift to off-peak, they would save even more. For probably the majority of our customers, they're going to be pretty close, and they're going to have to think about whether they have the ability and the desire to shift load and whether this is the right rate for them. But there are things that can be done to shift load, and again, that's part of why we think we're going to learn. We're going to learn what they want to hear and what things interest them, and that's going to be part of the process. But certainly, the easy message is just choose the weekend whenever possible. If you are doing your laundry and running the dryer and those sorts of things, the weekend is always going to be a good choice. And you don't even have to think about what hour of the day it is if you do that. And then certainly, as we see energy efficient devices, those can definitely help. The programmable thermostats for your heat and air unit, also for your water heater, can impact your load profile. And then, of course, there would be some customers who, when they look at this rate, they're predominantly on peak, more so than their peers, and it would be very challenging for them to save on this rate. So each customer is going to have to make their own decision based on their data. And then again, the guidelines, again, this is optional. We are recommending that at the outset, we put in some participation limits, 200 for residential and then 150 for the business customers. And again, for us, that's part of that learning curve. We have seen other utilities that offer time of use. For all of them that we've talked to, these caps would not have been an issue, but we just are maybe out of an abundance of caution there, wanting to put those in at the outset so that we can make sure we interact with these first customers that sign up and have a good experience for them. And then certainly going forward, we will review that limit as we need to. One of the exceptions that we've already identified for these caps, should we approach them or hit them, is that electric vehicle or solar customers, even if we've met the cap, we would allow them on into the pilot program. And again, we talked a little bit about the opt-out provision. We have seen some utilities will have a 60-day or a 90-day limit. We are proposing that there be no limit. When they come in, they can opt out at any time. The only parameter that we would put on that is that when a customer has been on time of use and they choose to opt out, they remain out for at least 12 months. And the reason for that is because we don't want customers switching in and out on the rates based on season or some other reason. So we do want to have some consistency there. So we do anticipate coming back to you again in April at the financial workshop. There will be some rate discussion within that presentation. And then, of course, May is our traditional month for doing all of the financial resolutions, rates, as well as budget and any debt considerations. So we would, at that time, be bringing forth these structure changes and introducing the new pilot, time of use pilots, and then the water and wastewater rate increases and the FY23 electric rate increase.
Define summer and winter again.
Summer is going to be 7 months, April to October. And winter is 5 months, November through March.
And do you have a proposed rollout date for to begin the pilot?
Yes, at this time we are thinking November 1st. And the seasonality is part of that. One of our actually customer folks suggested that, hey, instead of bringing it in October when all of our other rate things will be effective, why don't we do it in November so that you don't immediately have a seasonal shift there.
Okay.
For those of us who are not nerds like Celeste over there getting online and crunching data and geeking out, what's the process for kind of understanding your current sort of demand profile? That's you can go online and register and kind of see what that looks like.
You can, and I'll say right now, as we have completed the rate calculation and we have introduced this concept to employees, we right now are pulling in the customer experience team, the communications team, and starting to work on what do these communications look like, what tools do we need to make available to our customer experience employees that are on the phone with customers, as well as the customers themselves. So all of that is not completely formulated. We're still starting to work on the implementation plans, but definitely that is underway.
But we will be ready to assist customers. Yes. And when we start promoting, in particular, the time of use program, you're going to get calls in, well, how to, help me out on this. I'm interested in this. So we'd be able to help them run the numbers and to see if it's, you may be one of those that right now,
there's a decision and you need the data to kind of make a decision, right?
Yeah.
Somebody will help you.
Somebody will help me, that's good.
But we don't have time of use data. I mean, on your advanced meter data, it's not telling you, okay, you've used X number of kilowatts between 5 a.m. and 11 a.m.
Right, and that's going to be one of the hurdles that we come across with the communication is how to start providing that information, including that. We're trying to decide the best way, to show it on the bill and how to run that through all of our processes. So, yeah, there are definitely steps, and again, that is part of why, we expect this to be kind of a slow rollout, a soft launch at the beginning, and that's part of that learning experience too, to make sure we've got all of those tools. And it also, another factor is when you think that we are still installing meters even right now today. So if I'm a customer, I'm going to want a full 12 months of data. And if I'm a customer that's getting my meter today, I won't have that for another year. So it is, there's a spectrum here of information and stepping through those processes to figure out the best way.
But at a minimum, you can say, if you use power outside of the peak hours, you get a 66% discount.
Correct.
Okay. So that's a pretty good incentive to try to say, let me wait an hour to turn up my thermostat, or let me do my laundry later at night.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, over the last several years, we've been introducing numerous programs to our customers. I can introduce Mike Boland, Vice President of Utility Advancement, to give you a little preview, a little bit of a history of what we've been doing, but also brought some new programs we're working on for you all to be considering.
Thank you, Mr. Bolus, and good afternoon, Commissioners. Over the past year and a half or so, we've been introducing and talking about various customer programs. And the purpose today is to kind of bring you up to date on how those programs have fared and what we might be thinking about for our future programs as well. So with that, I'm going to start out talking about some gas programs. The gas programs were primarily introduced about 2 years ago. I'm talking about 2 different programs. And so let's get started here. The first one was the natural gas heater program. We have a number of customers out there that have gas service lines up to their house, but they're not taking gas service from us. Gas is heavily regulated. Safety is a big concern. Even though they're not taking gas from us, we still are required to maintain and inspect those gas service lines, even though we're not making any revenue off of them. So this program was designed to help incent customers to take gas service from us, to let us get some value out of those facilities that's sitting there in their yard, ready to provide service today. So far, we've offered about 2,000 customers the opportunity to receive a free installed natural gas water heater as part of this program if they take the service. We've installed about 103 of those to date. There's about 500 more that we're going to be offering in the near future. And we've learned a lot from this program. So this is one of the first programs we offered, and I'm continuing to learn from and offer going forward. Next program I want to talk about is this natural gas rebate program. This was instituted about a couple of years ago. We have a lot of gas customers that are out there that some of their appliances aren't using gas. And this program is designed to provide an incentive for customers to increase their usage of natural gas. We don't have to provide any more additional infrastructure if a customer uses more. So there's an opportunity there for us to provide an incentive. And this program is what does that. We provide rebates ranging from $100 to $600, depending on the type of appliance they got. If you're changing out an appliance, you don't go out and do the appliance just because somebody's offering you a rebate. So as people are changing out rebates, though, we need to have an appliance rebate program available for them to help make that decision. So far, we've had about 300 customers take advantage of this program. It provides us an opportunity to advertise natural gas all the time, keep it on top of their mind. The next time they're making an appliance type decision, they can think of natural gas as a potential option for them to consider. We talked about a lot of different programs over the past year. This one I was up here talking about last August, the electric vehicle charger rebate program. We should be proud of this program. We're the first utility in the state of Tennessee to offer an EV charger rebate program, and as we sit here today, we're the only utility in Tennessee offering an EV charger rebate program. As a reminder, the rebate program is designed to provide an incentive for homeowners to install level 2 chargers at home to charge their vehicles. The $400 covers up to 100% of the cost of the chargers themselves. We don't pay for the installation part. Pretty much every one of them that have applied for a rebate has been right at $400. So the chargers cost $400 and more. So far, we've pleased that the 43 people, we've provided 43 different rebates to the EV charging community. We've been happy to participate in the EV community. There's a statewide effort called Drive Electric Tennessee that we've been members of in the past that's getting re-energized, and I think as we go forward in time, we'll be looking for more opportunities to try to provide incentives and help get the EV industry off the ground in our service territory, because it's beneficial to our customers, it's beneficial to us, beneficial to the environment. So very, very happy about that. And might piggyback on Sherry's comments, Ms. Auditor's comments a little bit here. You can program your EV chargers so that they recognize time of use type rates. So you charge your car after, you're off peak. So you can even have better savings on an EV if you can use it in combination with a time of use. So time of use rates are really considered kind of green friendly, if you will. In any event, that's the reason why, even though we might have a cap on the initial pilot program for time use rates, we will make sure people have EVs have opportunity to be part of that, no matter where we are in our cap. So just sorry about that. But anyway, smart thermostats. I was in here talking about our smart thermostat program in November. It hasn't been that long ago. As a reminder on this program, TVA approached us and they were wanting to study about how to manage their peak. Just the same way we're talking about managing our peak, and our customers are managing their peak. Smart thermostats, TVA is offering to have professionally installed up to 2,000 smart thermostats in our service territory. In return for the free install of a smart thermostat, TVA is going to have the opportunity to adjust your temperature by a couple of degrees up to 8 times a year. So they're not doing it all just out of the goodness of their heart. They're trying to do something here. It's designed to help manage system peaks. But the thermostats themselves also provide benefits to customers, obviously, because it helps them manage their own usage as well. So I'm a big advocate for these because I'm personally invested in this. So far, we've installed 81 thermostats since November. There's a little over 100 thermostats in the queue to be installed. Between us and TVA, we're looking for a lot of different venues to advertise this program. If you follow us on Twitter, you'll see that. Most recently, there have been news reports in WATE and a couple of other news stations. We'll likely might see a billboard associated with this in the near future. And we're looking for ways. The city has sent it out on some of their web materials as well. So we're trying to get the word out about this great program. We're pleased to be part of that. Smart thermostats are another way, another mechanism that you can take advantage of any kind of time of use rate program. Smart thermostats in venues that have time of use, the smart thermostat could pre-cool your house so that on off-peak, so that you ride through the on-peak. There's a lot of technology out there that take advantage of some of this stuff. The smart thermostats, similar to the EVs, are one of the things that can help you personally and also help the environment by holding the whole electric grid usage down. Last year, we had a couple of different presentations here to the board on our energy workshops. They're pretty interesting to me, and hopefully it was to you. And in fact, it's not only interesting to me and maybe to y'all, it's also interesting to our customers. We originally signed up to be part of these workshops as part of a coalition of different groups getting together to provide these educational materials. Our commitment as part of that was to provide 4 to 6 workshops a year. As you can see, we've had much more demand than that. We've done 28 workshops to date. CAC actually provides a workshop every month to LIHEAP. People that are receiving LIHEAP phones are encouraged to attend. As part of these workshops, we provide various energy and water saving items to customers. If all the attendees had signed up and installed all these devices, they would have saved 450 megawatts hours, which is equivalent to taking 70 cars off the road. So there's an environmental benefit here, and it's also one of the ways we can help serve our low-income community that's one of the primary attenders of these sort of sessions. And we're working with TVA. TVA has helped develop a new youth-oriented program on energy and water efficiency. We're getting ready to start launching that, and we're working on materials to try to figure out how to attract the audience and how to get that out in the community. But that'll be launching here real soon to a whole different target audience for this type of talks. Commissioners, there's a great deal of need out in the community. We have, thankfully, both our Rounded Up program and our Home Uplift program is currently targeting our low-income citizens who need energy efficiency upgrades. And it does a very great job. Unfortunately, there's about 3,000 customers that are sitting on a waiting list today to have some sort of energy efficiency done in their houses. So we've worked hard to kind of think of other ways we can try to help and provide energy and water savings, utility bill savings for these customers over and beyond those programs while they're sitting there on a waiting list. One of the programs that we've developed, and one of the things we've heard is that, gosh, you know, as part of our utility bill, our water and wastewater charges are significant, particularly in the low-income community. So we've cast about looking for ways to address all these different needs and are proposing in the future to perhaps offer a toilet replacement program and a water efficiency effort that will replace the older style toilets with the more common low flow toilets. That's an immediate savings to the customers. If you have a pre-1994 toilet versus a newer toilet, you'd be surprised the difference in water each one of those takes. In fact, you can't even buy the old style anymore. The EPA won't allow us to be sold anymore. So,
Sorry, excuse me.
yes, ma'am.
Is there another, what we have at our house is basically a little button that's connected to the, which is, you know, you choose.
Yes, one or the other. Yes.
One or the other. And is that also, I mean, just seems, do those work on the older toilets as well?
No, I don't know that they do, honestly. What we're talking about doing is replacing the older style toilets with about 3.5 gallons with the newer style water sense toilets that are about 1.3 gallons. That's, you know, savings of almost 2 gallons of flush. And there's statistics out there that an average, if you go from the older style to the newer style, an annual household might save between 8,000 and 20,000 gallons of water. In our case, it's not only the water costs they're saving, they're also saving wastewater costs. So that's a fairly significant amount of savings for new style versus old style. I am certainly aware of the kind you're talking about.
Well, it's not even on the toilet. It's actually separate from the toilet. So we have old toilets, but we have, it's this, I'm not a plumber.
Is the device on top of the toilet? You push one or the other?
Well, it's battery run. And so if there's a waiting list, I'm thinking maybe these, I don't know what they cost, they're either, you know, maybe if they're less than $20, it might be something that could be installed while people are waiting for a new toilet.
I don't know. I guess I'm not as familiar with that device.
It's a battery operated flushing mechanism which uses less water on one side and then more water on the other side.
Oh, okay. That's interesting to hear. I wasn't aware of that. We'll have to check that out. What we're proposing here potentially, or what our envisionment is a direct install of the new toilets. While we're in the house, we intend to also offer other energy saving opportunities for the customers, including maybe some direct install LED light bulbs, maybe low flow shower heads, faucet aerators, whatever we can do while we're inside the house and to increase the energy efficiency or water efficiency of the house while we're there. We've had preliminary conversations with CAC about this. They're fairly enthusiastic, I would say. The details have yet to be worked out. But the envisionment here is that KUB would fund this program and CAC would likely be the implementer of this program. So again, we're working on details of that. We're hopeful that we'll be able to launch this program by this coming summer and have another opportunity for us to provide energy efficiency, water efficiency programs for our low-income customers. Another proposed program that you're going to be hearing more about, more details about next month, and we'll have a full presentation on this, is I talked previously about we are trying to incent customers to have an unused service line. That is a gas line that runs all the way to the side of their house. It's sitting there. we have a program to try and incent those customers to connect to natural gas. Well, there are a whole lot more customers out there that have a gas main in front of their house that are not taking advantage of that service. So we already have the investment with the facilities in front of their house, but they're not taking advantage of it. So it gives us an opportunity to make an offer to those customers and incent them to take advantage of having that gas main in front of their house. We're going to try to do that by providing a turnkey installation of not only a service line to their house, but also maybe an appliance. We'll give them the opportunity to finance that on their bill at zero interest as a mechanism of trying to sell the idea of becoming a gas customer where they've never been one in the past. Clearly, once they're gas customers, then they're eligible for future rebates as they add more appliances, natural gas appliances, over time. We're looking to start this late spring, early summer, and again, as I said, you'll hear a lot more about that next board meeting. And actually, that's the vehicle we've got in inventory now. We'll get everybody trained up and ready to rock and roll. So finally, I just want to say that all our customer programs are designed around our mission of trying to be service to our customers. At the same time, we're doing that and trying to save them money. We're also trying to be cognizant of our environmental stewardship, and a lot of these programs have those features to them as well. So with that, I'd be happy to answer your questions.
I know that I was at one point in a neighborhood that had gas brought in, and the cost to connect was prohibitive. And I remember thinking at the time, KUB's missing, and no one I knew in the entire neighborhood was connected, because it was just a lot, because a lot of the houses had pretty significant setbacks, and all that money was spent bringing all that there, and no one was connecting. So yeah, I would just encourage, as a growth mechanism, to really make it. I mean, if it's a big cost in your financing, that's a nice piece, but it's still going to be prohibitive, because your bill is going to be affected with the financing. So I guess what I would say is dig deep. They're new customers.
Yeah.
Right?
Clearly, we're trying. We're trying to make it, number one, we're trying to make it easy, because they can call us and we can actually install the appliance and the whole 9 yards. And we're trying to make it easy by the fact that they can pay for it on their bill, so they're not out of pocket. Generally speaking, if the gas main's in front of the house, the cost is a whole lot less than it would be if you're trying to get a new gas main running. So yes, that's what we're about. There are lots of these customers out there, so there's a lot of opportunity. I think as we first roll this out, just like every other program I've been involved in, we'll learn how to do it better, I hope. So, but we're going to be give it the best shot we can to help that particular customer, but also help every other customer if there's more sold without having to add any more infrastructure. So.
Would appliance include a gas furnace?
Absolutely. Gas furnace is on, well, this program, I think it is, you'll hear more next month about that.
Okay, stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
We have 2 individuals that have signed up to speak today. Once you go to the podium, you will have 5 minutes to make your comments. And when you have 1 minute remaining, the yellow light on the podium will come on. When your time is up, the red light will come on. First, we have Mr. Kemp. No.
Good day, Commissioners. Thanks for the opportunity to address you again. Those are such great presentations. I'm sure glad I've gotten the habit of showing up here. I've got a comment today. I sent you an email with a short article, much easier and shorter reading than the stuff I usually send you. It's about, it's interesting because I'm sending it to you because of comments that I've made about the 20-year contract with TVA. And I was at a meeting yesterday of environmental groups to plan for Earth Day. And we were figuring out what kind of event. But the whole meeting got derailed when somebody mentioned the 20-year contracts. And everybody started talking about that, and all the environmental groups in town are very interested in supporting your efforts to find a creative way of dealing with the situation. And I sent you this article because it's about Tri-State Energy, which is a big electric company in the Rocky Mountain West. And it has some parallels with our situation here in Tennessee because you've got a big power company, very coal dependent, that delivers electricity to a bunch of small local power companies, including a bunch of rural electrical cooperatives. And the big news in the article is that they've made a big, serious commitment to responding to the climate, and they've committed to 100% renewable energy by, I think it's 2040, and again, I just got it this morning, so I don't have all the information from me in my memory, but really significant commitments to greenhouse gas reduction, like 90% I recall is one of the figures. And why did they do this? Did some guy from the Sierra Club walk in there and persuade them about the urgency of climate change, and they said, oh gosh, that's right, we're going to stop burning coal? Probably that didn't happen. I think what did happen was a bunch of the local power companies, a couple of them defected, and several others threatened to defect, because just like here in our TVA service area, people are clamoring for clean energy. And I think Tri-State currently gets 50% of its electricity from coal. And they're decommissioning some of those coal-fired plants, and there's some contention about how much natural gas will replace it. So there's a bunch of environmental questions still in play there. But the big point is, obviously, they're making a move to really deal with the climate in a big way, which is what we're trying to get TVA to do. So I don't know all the ramifications of this, but there are just two things I wanted to call to your attention. One was the news in the article, and the other was the fact that every environmental group in town here, and subsequent to the climate concert back in June, we're in touch with 18 of them, that everybody is deeply concerned about these 20-year contracts and about finding a way to use this situation of TVA asking us for this long-term commitment to get them to make a long-term commitment to us and to really clean up energy generation so that we can get a commitment to clean energy like the people in the Rocky Mountains seem to be getting there. So anyway, that's my comment. Check out the article. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And next up is Constance. And Constance, what's your last name? I'm sorry, I'm not reading it correctly.
It's so easy. It's every, like
Every?
everyone,
All right,
everybody,
thank you.
every place, yes.
I didn't want to butcher your name.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. So, you know, I am, like gentlemen, as you said before, glad to be here and definitely was able to see some of those presentations. I do want to take the time to compliment the board. Thank you for your proactivism. I like to see that when things are coming up that is definitely concerning, especially when talking about expense and affordability, that you all have been proactive in making sure you engage in ideas, concepts, or other information that may not be present or even provided, that you're bringing this to the attention of the team that you put together to take care of these different plans and formats. So I do appreciate to see that type of proactiveness. However, there are some things that still came up in today's presentation, as well as the complaint, or not just a complaint, but the concern I'm going to bring as well forward today with this particular matter. One of the things that I saw that the gentleman with the yellow tie talked about, I would like to see a more proactivism in the other side of the fence. We talked about where these programs and other things are going to be available directly to renters. As I've already stated before in past situations and conversation with the board, I would like to see KUB and the city-county side get more proactive with enforcing those changes to the landlords, because at the end of the day, that's who owns the property. Of course, as well with a renter, you should be wise as a renter to go through, to walk through, check throughs and other things. But we know that we're dealing with serious conflicts of poverty in our communities. And we know for a fact that some people just in reality don't have time or even affordability to do such things. And so therefore, I still would like to see the proactivism going to the landlord. So at the end of the day, that is who is truly responsible for upgrades and other necessities, especially when you're talking about energy efficiency, comes to. As well as the fact, some of the things that we talked about with the business changes and things that we're talking about doing with that part. I think that's going to be interesting how it really applies, especially when you start getting into small business and mid-sized business owners. As we know, some business owners are hanging on by a thread as we speak right now. And so some of these changes could be very efficiently in cost for them. Whereas with others who are probably doing really well and had stayed in the green or black for their record, might not have so many issues with the changes. So that's going to be something that we'll have to watch and monitor as it goes. But the real concern I came in with today was that apparently over the last few weeks, there's been some issues with the sewer lines of KUB. I don't know if any of you are aware of this, but Montgomery Village, I have pictures to show it, had the nastiest sewage backup I've ever seen in my life. It was so bad that we were even having toilet paper that was used while they were obviously coming out of the sewer line. When I got the opportunity to speak to the community person that was really putting the awareness of the complaint forward, she told me that she had definitely called numerous occasions to customer service to inform them of the issue with the sewer backup, and they were kept getting told someone would be out there, someone would be out there. Well, we know that there are children present, so that's the biggest problem we have. You know, one of the things that separates a developed country from a third world country is sewage. It's always been the big factor. We go look at that first and say, ooh, are you developed or not developed? And I definitely consider America to be developed. So there's no reason, in my opinion, for sewage to be backing up in our areas like that. And then another complaint that I received, because it was crazy, it was like that day, the next day after, a lady by the name of Ms. Conwell, 900 South Gray Street. That's in the East Knoxville community. Her whole yard was flooded with sewage, and I have pictures of that as well. When we were able to actually get a KUB personnel out there to check the situation, come to find out, apparently from the employees on ground, they admitted that basically at some point this pipeline was extracted, and no one put the pipe back. So who knows how long that lady's yard has had sewage going into it or not been going into it. I don't know, I don't work for KUB, but what we do have is pictures to show that there was definitely a hole and a missing pipe in her yard. And her yard had been filling up with sewage basically off of this. And the same concept, for whatever reason, they were making those complaints and they were getting told to contact Roto-Rooter and other businesses. However, because I guess the significance of voice and being that voice, when I made the calls, we had somebody out there the next day and they had the line of service. Same thing for Montgomery Village. When I informed the person, Mrs. Anna, because you know Miss Tiffany is out right now, but when I talked to her and told her about the Montgomery Village, same thing. She called me back, was like, hey, we got somebody from KUB and KCDC out there looking at what was going on. So as we continue to state, these are the real matters and real concerns. I saw that you brought in a list of guests. In my honest opinion, out of all the people sitting here, in reality, only 2 to me have a real connection to the public and the real service personnel that you're servicing, your customers, which is the gentleman right here on the end who's over contracting or construction work. They are always out there in the public dealing with us directly, and as well as with customer services. Of course, you're always dealing with us. I would like to advise that some of the people on the advisory committees, there does sometimes come off as a disconnect to the reality of the customers on ground and what we are really facing in the reality of customer service experiences, customer service needs, and other factors. But like I said, I do get excited when I see proactiveness. Hopefully for the year 2020, by the end of this year, we will be in a much better place than we are currently. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Evers. Following the adjournment of this meeting, the board will have a lunch session across the hall that is open for the public to observe. This meeting is now adjourned.